What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. If it's your first time, welcome. And today we're gonna give you guys an update on what's going on with the Genesis HEMI swap and a few other things going on in the shop. I know we haven't posted a video in a little while. It's been kind of hectic and busy and everything else going on. So first thing we're gonna do is clean up the shop. If you guys can see behind me, it got pretty messy in here. We had other small things going on, so we had to get them done. But we did gain good progress with Genesis swap, and I'm excited to share it. So we're gonna get into that in a little bit. First thing I want to do is finish up this charge pipe for a customer real quick. We gotta do some cutting and welding, and Jake should be here shortly to wrap that up, and then we're gonna continue on with the Genesis swap updates and a couple things that we gotta wrap up. But the engine bay is coming close to the end, and in a few weeks I think we're gonna go ahead and fire this thing up. So very excited about that. But first things first, we're gonna get into this charge pipe. Customer brought in this pipe for his, I don't know what kind of car, or I don't really remember, Chevelle maybe. But anyway, this is a pipe we gotta whip up, and he wants, so these boots are a problem. They keep blowing off under boost as always, so we gotta fab up a 3.5 inch pipe, which it's almost done. We got a couple more pieces to cut, and it goes from 4 inch from the supercharger into a 3.5 inch to whatever it goes to, intercooler or whatever. So I got a couple more pieces to cut for Jake, and we got to do some pipe cuts because of the tight radius right over here. And we got a 4 inch to 3.5 inch reducer, which is going to sit right about there instead of the boot, and we got to make this tight corner. So we're just about there. We just got to get probably 5 more pipe cuts and then finish up this 45-degree elbow. So not too bad, shouldn't take long. If you guys are wondering how to do pipe cuts, I will explain that here in a little bit. So we got a little bandsaw set up right here. Don't mind the mess. That's why I said we got to clean up, because we've been doing a lot of cutting and welding, so it's been messy. But we picked up this little bandsaw, and it works for the pipe cuts just fine. So I'll explain that in a second if you guys are wondering how to do those. So I'm going to pick up around the shop because it's getting tight. There's a lot of cars. There's cars sitting outside. We got to get this car out of here, and there's a couple more. Well, there's another one, if you guys remember. I'll show you here in a second. It was the BRZ twin turbo setup that we did a fuel system on that came back. I have to do a engine bay wire harness tuck. So as soon as we get a few of these cars out of here, we'll be able to bring that one in. So the plan is to fix Joey's car. He broke a couple studs on his oil pan, and I think we're gonna tack the hood up on this one, close the windows, and put it outside. My Z is probably gonna go back to my house just for a little bit. I know I was planning to do AC lines, but it's just gonna have to wait. So with that being said, let me clean up the shop, and then we're gonna get into today's date. All right guys, so we're gonna do some pipe cuts right now. Cleaned up the shop a little bit. So if you guys are looking to do some pipe cutting at home for your car, this is basically how you do it. I'm not gonna get into a lot of detail. There's a lot of videos out there how to do it, but we're using 3.5 inch pipe. And what you want to do is find the center of the pipe, and the easiest way to do it is mark both sides. So we got a line here and a line here, so we're at 1 3/4 on this one. All right, so we got our stop set up at 45 degrees true to our blade, and what you want to do is mark your stop, the height, also at 1 3/4, whatever the case may be on your pipe, and then line up your mark, and go ahead and start, cutting your pipe. But another thing is this little stop over here. This one's basically you want to set how deep you want your inside to be, or how thick or thin. So that's kind of going to be on you. You don't want them too thin, because when you weld them and they all stack next to each other, it just becomes one big weld. So ours is about 0.35 or something like that inches. So I'm gonna get this in there, get it all set up, we're gonna cut our first piece, which is gonna be just basically scrap, and then we're gonna start cutting it. And this one's set up for 18 degrees, so there's two types of them. You can either get them at 9 degrees or 18 degrees. So right now I'm cutting about 5 or 6 of them at 18 degrees. So let's get these cut up and get them to Jake so he can get that charge tube done. Another thing I want to mention real quick, you want to mark it on both sides because you're going to keep flipping your pipe back and forth as you're cutting it. So each cut's going to be, you know, one on one side, one on the other, and that's how you're going to basically get all your pipe cuts. Alright guys, we're back. Cleaned up the shop a little bit, so it's a little bit more room to move around now, which is way better than it was before. And so I ended up cutting the pipe cuts for Jake, and I just want to make a correction. Earlier I was talking, didn't really think what I was saying, but this stop right here where I was explaining, this one was actually set to 9 degrees to make your 18 degree pipe cut. And then you can do a 4.5 to make a 9 degree pipe cut. So we ended up making a whole bunch of 18s, and then we needed 1 or 2 9 degree. And here's Jake, he's getting this pipe mocked up now. Well, not mocked up, basically almost done. It's looking pretty good.
Yeah, just got a couple more pieces to hit together. I'm really digging a new welding table.
Table's back. What do you talk about that? Here we go.
Yeah, we break it down. So it was a long time coming for the welding table. We ordered it months back, and we're shipping issues with it. The company that we got it from is a real good company. Their customer service is good, but we bought it through a third party, so I don't know. We finally got it put together. And the fixturing is awesome. I've never had a fixture table, but just to match parts up, you can make simple little 5/8 rod tools, and you know, these are all the holes are square in this, so it's really nice to be able to set your pieces down and reference off the holes. It makes duplicating like this is what we're doing for another customer. He has boots and plastic intake. It's a Pro Charge car. He wants it out of aluminum, so customer supplied it locked in position as it was on the car. So just using like these little stands, they're going to be way more refined, but you know, a couple little tack welds, and now I got a true reference for the ends. I love it. It's nice being able to work on all sides too. So if you guys are contemplating getting a fixture table, I would totally do it. I love it.
Right on. So Jake's almost done with it. There's a couple more things, but there was a lot of pipe cuts in this thing to make it such a tight radius as this one is, because we could have used just bent pipe out of the box. It wasn't tight enough. All right guys, now we're gonna get an update on the scat pack swap. So Joe's been working on it for a little while, doing some brake lines. So how's it going, Joey?
Hi, what up guys? So I'm running the brake lines. I really despise running brake lines, so Alex and Jacob put me in charge of it. Really happy about it. I don't know if you've never run stainless steel brake lines. They're kind of a pain. It's not that big of a deal, but something I like to use copper bendable ones. Makes it a little easier to make like a little template. That way you're not messing up all your expensive, nice stainless steel lines. So what we're doing is, the original ABS module was here on the Genesis. We're using the Scat Packs one, and we relocated it back here. So the only thing here with the Challengers, these two lines go right to the master cylinder. And the master cylinder, this one is from the Genesis. It runs these 1/4 inch lines, and these ones were bigger, so we had to go online and order an adapter for it. Fits perfectly. But it was just one of those hiccup things we didn't know. We originally were going to run the brake lines underneath this drip tray, but we figured it would look a lot cleaner if we put them inside of it. So that's what I'm working on now, trying to route them all in there. I think it's going to give it a really clean look. We are running it like 3 different pieces because it would just be too much of a pain to bend them all out here and try to get them all in. So we're going to bend it, have connections in here, then bend them out here. Some of them might be 2 pieces, but most of them are going to be 3.
And we're going to use unions on the inside, right, to connect them?
Correct. These are what they're going to look like. Then we're going to have like clamps and stuff, make them look cleaner, drill holes right here. Finished product's going to turn out pretty sweet.
So these we're trying to do all symmetrical, all going in there, kind of the same angle, same distance, so it looks nice and clean once it's all finished. So Joey's the pro, he's going to take it to the finish line. Another thing we end up doing is mounting ECU actually on the firewall on the backside. So no more ECU in the engine bay like the Challenger had. It's going to be on the backside. This is just loosely sitting there. There's going to be weather stripping around it, so don't worry, there's going to be no moisture going into the cabin. And it's going to be also easier to remove the engine once you're trying to pull it off. You can just unclip the 2 big connectors and yank the motor out with the harness. So that's cool. And so we end up blanking off one hole over here, still needs tack welded. There's another one. We made a plate and then drilled a hole for the harness to go through. So this one is going to fit nice and tight. A few other things. We had a drive shaft dropped off at the shop, so that one is in progress right now. Should be like a month, he said, or so till it's made. So it's going to be like a 3.5-inch drive shaft, 1 piece. Both these cars came with 2 piece, so this should be a lot cleaner and stronger. He said about 1,200 horsepower rating on it, so it should be plenty for this motor as of right now. Another thing we end up doing is rerouting some of this wiring. I know it looks pretty messy right now, but you'll see it later once we get it all set up in engine bay. It looks pretty nice. We end up running the wire kind of underneath because there's a huge scoop sitting right here, so it's going to be hidden under it. And one of our connectors that we had to extend was for that ABS. So there's 3 wires. They were short, or they were coming out of this box, the fuse box. So they were too short to run all the way to that firewall where the ABS unit sits. So those 3 will need to be extended, and it actually is coming out pretty nice. We had it in there all hooked up for the majority of the part, and it'll look nice and clean. So once Joey's done running those 2 brake lines on the back, we're gonna put this motor back in and start hooking up our transmission lines to the radiator and probably working the AC lines. So that's what's going on inside the engine bay. And another thing, we're looking to start this thing soon. We, as you already know, pulled off the oil pan. We just picked up some 1/4-inch aluminum right over here. So whenever gets a chance, we're gonna end up cutting it and extending the oil pan off to the side. You know what I mean? And so it doesn't lose any quantity. So it's basically gonna come out this way on both sides. So you still get to keep your oil quantity, maybe even a little bit more. So and it's gonna be up higher, so it's not gonna hit the ground while the car is being so low as it is right now. There's a few more things I want to show you guys. We did end up making a fuel line, or adapting a fuel line, I guess. Just in case you guys don't know, you can buy these crampon fittings. It's kind of hard to see, but it's basically converts your OEM line into a hand, and then you can put your PTFE or just flexible hose, depends where you're running, what kind of fuel you're running. So this car was originally a turbo car, so I believe this is a fuel return to the tank. And until this car is going to be turbo or supercharger, I think for now we might cut this down lower and tuck it out of the way so you can't see it in the engine bay, and maybe even use it later down the road if the customer decides to go that route. And in this corner, obviously no more clutch master. This is auto transmission now. So we got this overflow can for the radiator. Think about maybe filling up this area with the overflow can, or maybe something a little bit smaller. So that probably will sit back there. And then our power steering reservoir will sit on the strut tower. So basically this whole front end we'll clean up. There's gonna be barely anything there except a fuse box. So this is loose yet. We don't know at what angle we're gonna put it. We don't want to stress too much wire down on the engine, but as soon as that's in, we'll get a good solid position for that. And here shortly we're gonna probably strip it all down. As soon as we get it, all these brackets, mounts, everything made, put in place, you know how it's gonna live. Then we're gonna take it all back out and prime and paint this engine bay, probably like black with some metallic or something. But give us some comments down below if you think you got a cool color for this engine bay. Since the car's red, I think black is gonna look pretty good with a big old motor in it. In case you guys haven't seen it, we did finish the transmission mount. Here it is, one solid piece now, nice and beefy. So if you guys need one from your swap, give us a comment down below. We'll hook you up. This is the next day, and today we got a little bit more progress done. We actually put the motor back in and started looking at what all the lines do fit as far as like AC, transmission, coolant. So far, so kind of just gonna go through it and take a look. I want to show you a few things. We're gonna start on the left side of the vehicle here. The AC lines do not actually look that bad, so don't mind the mess in here, but one of the lines we're gonna have to definitely adapt is gonna be the skinny line that goes from the firewall and it comes down to your condenser right up the front side over here. So this is the old line from the Challenger, this is the OEM line from the Genesis, and these two at some point right here, I already took my measurements, so I know what I have to order. So we're gonna splice these two, and down by the compressor side, it's kind of hard to see, it's the big fat line that's not plugged in or anything. So that one we're thinking we're probably going to end up cutting that end off. It's either brazing the end from the Challenger or possibly even crimping a new soft line to it. So I'm going to order both options, and then we'll choose the best one, however the most clean look we can get out of it. So it didn't come out too bad. Our third line that comes from the condenser into the compressor side fit right in, no problems. So we kind of stayed to the true distance from the Challenger as far as like the engine to the front core support to the motor. Try to fit as many things as we can. The transmission lines, they come from over here. They fit all the way down to the transmission with absolutely no problems. I'm going to show you that once we get the car back on the lift, so, or once we get it up on the lift. For the wire harness side, here's this is what I was talking about. Our OEM fuse box is going to live in this area, and I know the wires kind of look messy right now because the wire harness is open. Trying to extend where we need to extend, and they probably gonna go across. Obviously this is all going to be covered later. Go across and run down your valve cover along with the other harness, the OEM harness that comes in the engine bay. And here it is, it goes into your opening. We do have to open up a little bit just because it makes this little pinch and it doesn't look good. So we'll probably open up a hole. It's too tight for that big of a grommet. And here's the ECU plugs that we talked about. The ECU is mounted on the firewall, so it gives it a little cleaner look. And this is the harness that we still have to extend for our ABS system right over here. So that's something else next we're going to be working on. But for the most part, it's going to clean up pretty well. Don't mind this one yet. This is the power wire that actually runs to the fuse box, and then it goes back to the battery all the way in the trunk. So this still needs to be situated and shortened a little bit. Other than that, the only wire harness that's left is your like horns, sensors, and headlights, which they all sit where they need to sit. A couple loose grounds here and there, some speed sensors. Kind of got them tucked away right now, but I think it's coming out pretty well. Don't mind this line too. Just kind of zip that out of the way, and it's not turning out too bad. It looks pretty clean. We tucked away as many things as we could in the process, so kind of happy with the result. And the front end looks super mean. So let me get it up on the lift and we'll take a look at these transmission lines. Alright guys, here's our transmission lines that's what I was talking about earlier. So they drop right down by the subframe and run all the way down to the transmission. So they fit pretty well. Nothing's really hitting anywhere. And once we put the oil pan in, that should be clear also, since it's just the OEM setup. Also, what I want to show you, the bottom radiator hose, it's all in. For most part, this thing's gonna go down to the reservoir. It's kind of just dangling right now because we don't know exactly 100% where the reservoir is gonna sit. Your coolant, oil cooler lines plugged right in, so no problems there. And this time we're gonna be able to get a transmission mount on since we already got it made. Overall, I think it's coming out pretty nice. Nice and clean look. Most of the stuff is hidden or will be tucked away if it's not already. And it's going to look even cleaner once we clean up that harness and mount it 100%. So, with all that being said, I think this is going to be it for this one, guys. So, stay tuned and I'll see you next time. Take it easy.